Hey, it's Sophie Wren going live. I wonder if anybody will pop on to talk to me today. What I want to do is I want to explore a feeling that I have been dancing with probably my whole life, but really consciously over the last few years. And it just felt like a really great time to start this conversation. We have fall about to happen right now. If you're watching the replay, maybe that's not happening, but I think this is something that's always relevant. The feeling of being rushed for time, the feeling of not having enough time. Wow, it's so powerful. I know for me, it's wrapped up in a lot of things. It can create a lot of anxiety for me in my life. If you don't know the news, I'm pregnant and I'm going to have a kid in December, so that's really exciting. And that has been in my space since this became a thing earlier in the year. And and now I have like this very real deadline to get what I need to do done, and I don't know what life is going to look like on the other side of that. I don't know how much time and energy I will have, how much mental bandwidth I have. I was really taken by surprise, actually, that the first trimester was so bad. I just really couldn't think very well. I had a very intense brain fog, and I was nauseous and very tired. And it being my first time I've ever been pregnant, I didn't know that's how I would react to it. I didn't know that that's kind of normal. And I was thinking that, it would get progressively more difficult as the journey went on, but not everything in life is linear. By the way, there is construction outside. If you hear something, that's what that is. But I just kind of had to deal with that. And it put a lot of pressure on me doing things now that I feel a little bit better, because for those months I didn't get done what I wanted to get done, and I still had goals for what I wanted to accomplish in 2025, especially considering that big life changes were about to happen. And so now I kind of have this sense of when I have energy, when I have time, I need to do as much as I can to do the things I already feel behind on, because something else is probably going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what symptom is going to happen. I don't know what car breakdown is going to happen, knock on wood. I don't know what is going to happen. And I can't assume that the time I have now will continue. So this is a particular thing that I'm going through, but that is increasing the amount of pressure I feel like on having not enough time. But I was looking at my notes from January, and I felt the same way then. And I'm sure I could open a notebook last year and be feeling pressed for time then. I think this is something that we see as this is just a right now issue. But some people like me, it's more of a long-term pattern that of not feeling like you have enough time, of feeling like you're behind, and having this stress related to it. And if that is something that you resonate with, I would love to hear about your experience. Do you ever feel like you don't have enough time, or that you're behind, or what is that like? What is that like for you? And how does it show up for you? Because I'd like to get to know this part of ourselves, this part of our life experience that we literally never stop to take a look at because we're so busy trying to do things. But what if we consider it our dance partner in life? I'm not making it wrong, because the truth is, we have a limited time here on the planet, but we do need to find a balance with it, right? Because sometimes I feel so stressed about time that it can be debilitating. And then I'm overwhelmed, and then I'm not thinking clearly about how to use that time effectively. So I think it's really important. And I'm going to talk about something else with this too, but I just want to take a little sip of water because I forgot to bring my water with me. So we're going to walk over here. Taking this with me. So the other thing is that, being that I work with a lot of business owners and writers, we talk about a lot of things. We talk about what are they going to focus on, in the short term and the long term, and what is the priority to do now versus later. And so we're talking about time, and we're talking about how to fit things in all the time. And I think that is something that every business owner, every writer, as well as every person is thinking about. Like, how do I do all the things I want to do in the amount of time? And the truth is, you know, there's so much sold to us as like, find the perfect planner, find the perfect time hack. There's time for everything if you only know my secrets. But the thing is, that's not true, because we only have so much time in this physical plane as is the humans that we are today. So we are going to miss out on some stuff. And it's kind of like necessary to accept that we can't do it all in order to accept that what we're going to need to do is prioritize. And I think that's the most painful thing, because it involves kind of cutting off possibilities, cutting off being able to say, I can do everything, and being like, actually, there's some stuff I really do want to do, but I just don't have time right now. It's not even just saying no to stuff that I don't want to do, which is an important skill, but it's like saying no to things you do want to do, but you just can't fit it in right now in order to focus on other stuff. And kind of where to put that energy, what to put in your right now, I'm going to focus on this bucket, is like a huge question. And I think that because when you're so busy, you're like, I got to get into motion, we don't always really take that time to be deliberate about it. And it requires kind of getting into a different groove, getting out of the anxiety, getting out of the rush, getting out of feeling like you're behind, to kind of question the premise of everything and be like, actually, I need to separate from this feeling in order to get into my highest thinking place, and just like non-emotionally or objectively decide what I'm going to tackle. Because honestly, probably some things are going to have to fall in the cracks, and some things are going to be left behind, and some things aren't going to be done, at least to the level that I would like to be doing them, because I'm a human and I have limits. And I hate to face my mortality and admit that, but that is what it is. And hopefully then, by making that conscious kind of choice, we then can look back on our time later and be like, you know what? Yeah, I didn't do everything that I said I wanted to do in 2025, but I'm really proud of how I spent my time, and I wouldn't have done it another way. I think that the saddest thing is when we look back and we're like, oh, I spent so many weeks on this project and it didn't even bring me closer to what I wanted to achieve, or like it didn't make me feel the way I thought I would achieve at the end. And if I'm honest with myself, I really was just doing it for XYZ reason that had more to do with someone else than it really did to me. Or it was because I felt obligated, or because I told people I was going to write a book, so I felt like I had to write a book or whatever. And this is something I go really deep in with people, because like what I find is that a lot of people that I work with, like one-on-one, is that a lot of times we do what I call ungoaling, where we literally like, they had a goal they were coming to me with, and I was totally ready to help them with that goal. But as we go deeper into it, the motivation is just not really there. And we start to kind of explore, you know, what they're trying to get out of it. And then they realize that like, oh, this wasn't really my passion. This wasn't really my desire. It was an obligation I felt, or it was an expectation I felt to appear professional, or this was something I was doing to protect myself, and to feel safe in something, but it wasn't really making me feel alive. And if I'm honest with myself, I don't have to do that. I don't have to do that. And then it can be hard, because it's like, whenever we set a goal, we kind of feel like this obligation of like, I have to fulfill it for my ego, for my pride, you know, for people knowing that I'm doing a good job, for me knowing I'm doing a good job. I need to check that box. But at some point we kind of need to like take control of our own life and say, actually, I get to decide now what matters, not just January 1st me, but me today, whatever day of the calendar it is. I'm allowed to change my mind, because I've gotten more information now. I've gotten more perspective now about what's important to me this second, and I'm allowed to change and grow. And being open to change and open to changing your mind and actually removing goals from your plate, and actually removing, like, again, not just saying no to stuff that you didn't want to do, but saying no to stuff that like you did want to do legitimately, but realizing that not all of the tumblers are falling into place. Not all of the things that you need out of that particular goal are going to be achieved by that goal. And maybe there's a better way to do it. Maybe it's not really as important as you thought because you had different expectations than the reality. Okay, so I call it ungoaling, that process of giving yourself permission to let it go and to release it. And so as we're kind of going into, in this moment in time, the end of the year, but really this could apply anytime at all. I think it's really good to not only review kind of like what the things that we thought were important earlier in the year, 6 months ago, a year ago, just to kind of get that perspective of the long-term view, but to hold it with some looseness because we're changing and we're growing and we're not obligated to fit into a box that we made for ourselves a year ago. We have to take new information. And I think it can be really hard. It can be really hard to sort through all of these things. And that's kind of one of the things that I help people with, but it's also things I have to do for myself too, right? So I started this conversation just because it felt authentic to talk about as someone going through it, as people who are watching might be going through it, that like we're all in this together. We're all human beings. We're all grappling with this sense of, I only have so much time. I only have so much to work with. And how do I do everything? And I think the truth is we can't do everything, but if we can allow ourselves to be flexible and open to change and open to the fact that we're changing and the world is changing and our schedules might be changing, to really change our expectations that we have of ourselves. And that might be something that takes some time to do, to take some journaling to do, some talking to people to do, some exploration to do. But I think that we can all be our biggest critic and we can all weigh ourselves down with these expectations that can be too high. And I know that I do. And I think that's where that feeling of like, I'm always feeling like I'm behind. I'm always feeling like I have to rush. And I'm stressed about it, and I can't just let myself do some of the things I really want to do because I have so many responsibilities that I have to do. And as somebody who really believes in creativity and writing and, you know, exploring your passions more, you know, it's something that I find for myself too, that like there's certain projects that I would really like to spend time on, but I like can't because I have to do XYZ first. And then for some whatever reason, there just keeps being more in that obligation category, responsibility category, that I can't get to the fun stuff that doesn't feel like it's like linearly pushing something forward, that's more of a creative exploration without any kind of agenda. To be able to do those things that I want to do, that I desire to do, that is my passion to do, that will make me feel alive to do, is so much harder to fit into the schedule that it always gets put aside. And I don't want to say procrastinated because it's like not even honestly like a goal that I have on my list of goals. Because if it was, it would have higher priority. It's like I don't even give it a goal space in my mind of what my goals are, because it's that tangential, it's that new, it's that organic, it's that alive. And you know, for instance, for me, there's this video I was thinking about making that I actually wrote out all of the kind of concept for and the words for, and it's just me sharing about changes in my life that have happened that I wanted to share about and hope to inspire someone with that. But I know that it will take time. Could take 2 weeks, it could take a month, it could take time for me to really finish that to the degree that I want to finish that into an output video to show anyone, to feel done with. And I just feel like I've got all these other things that I could do more quickly, that kind of make more linear sense for me and my business and all of my goals. And I haven't gotten around to that. And it's now been like 2 months that that's been an idea. And I want to make time for that. So I'm bringing it up again. Like I said, I'm in it with everyone. I'm up here on this journey. I am learning, but it's just occurred to me recently that, you know what? I think I really need to look at my relationship with time. I think I really need to dance with this partner that is my feeling of being rushed. And I need to question the premise and be a little skeptical of what it's telling me, while grateful for the job that it does and keeping me motivated, because some things are falling in the cracks that are only important to me, that are important to no one else, but that will make me feel alive, and I think will make me feel like I made the best use of my life and my time for me, and not just working, doing what I have to do, and surviving, basically. You know, I want to thrive. I want to blossom. I want to bloom. And I have to question that rushing energy and the direction it wants to take, to listen to my soul, which is a little bit slower, more plodding, more deliberate, more purposeful, more open, and is very open to change and to things that are not something that I can put on a platter to show everybody necessarily. Like, it's about benefits that are under the surface that maybe only will affect me, you know? But I think that as we come to listen to these things, we start to tap into a superpower. And that superpower is that thing that can help us to push forward everything else more quickly. Like, when you are feeling more alive and more connected to your soul, then you get more downloads. So then some other project, boom, you might get like the entire essay in like 2 minutes instead of days, because you went and you had all these really fulfilling activities that lined you up with inspiration. And similarly, you might have a decision that's really hard to make, and it might be just like, I know what to do with that because I can hear myself, and I'm honoring myself, and I respect myself, and I listen to myself, and all that's lining up. And so it can actually save you time to do this. It can actually save you time to do things that feel like a waste of time, when you're really hearing yourself and you're really trusting yourself and walking that talk and putting that into action, even though it might feel so contrary to the part of us that wants to rush and check off boxes, because that part of us doesn't actually understand real priorities. It's just kind of going with how we made the list 6 months ago or whatever. You know, it's just kind of going with old information. But we're getting new information all the time. We're changing, and we're growing, and we're getting ideas, and we're getting feelings, and we're getting urges, and we're getting intuition, and we're getting new information. And so we have to have this balance of, I'm rushing to get everything done that I said I was going to do in the past. And other side of it, I'm open to change because I'm a human and I have a soul. I have something that is really hard to describe, that wants to be alive and doesn't want to just robotically check off things. Like, there's other priorities I have too, to live with this one life I have, and to look back on the year and be like, I lived. I gave myself time for things that really made me happy, even though I can't go to my job and be like, hey, check me out. Like, I did this cool hike or whatever. It's for me, and I matter. And the things that no one else cares about but me matter. So I hope that whole monologue that I just shared has given you some kind of idea or perspective. Maybe something is coming up for you of like, yeah, this is sort of, Sophia gave some examples of things for her, but this is sort of my thing for me that I wish I had time to fit in, that I wish I had time to do, but I have all of these other things I need to do. And if it's there, let's just allow ourselves to feel the desire. Like, let's just step one, allow ourselves to feel the desire and not judge it, and not need to know how it's going to happen yet. Because I find myself, if I don't know how it's going to happen, sometimes I just totally like mute the feeling, like dial down the idea. Like, if I had an idea, one day I would love to live in Europe, but I don't know how. That's really complicated. I don't know how. I could just be like, nah. But what if I just let myself be like, yeah, that would be lovely. that'd be cool. And just not judge it, and not even make it so that it's like now a thing we're obligated to go do. Like, just taking away any expectation and just allowing ourselves to be honest with ourselves that we have wants. We might not have time for all of them, but like, let's just start by like letting ourselves have it and writing it down. And maybe with time, we'll figure out a way to do it. But the first step is just being aware and just allowing ourselves to know. So often, like when things are hard, we just sort of shut something down and we confuse ourselves. And that's why people come to me as like a creativity coach, because I can kind of help them undo that. But we have the ability to not be confused by just being honest with ourselves from the start. So let's do that. Let's be honest with ourselves. There's stuff that we wish we could do. Maybe we don't feel like we have the time to do it, but let's like at least write it down. Let's at least like sit with it for a few moments. And who knows, maybe there is a way. Maybe there is a way to get that in there. And maybe by beginning to be curious and open and non-judgmental, we can kind of look at our task list and look at our goals with a little bit more of a grain of salt. That maybe it's okay to change them. Maybe it's okay. Maybe something isn't as urgent as we think it is. Maybe something isn't as essential or isn't going to meet the need that we want it to. And then actually we can peel that off and ungoal it for now and put it on a shelf. And then now suddenly we have all this time and energy that we can use for our wants and our desires and our passions and our creative urge and our soul and what it wants to do. And having that balance is going to move everything forward. I promise you, all of those very linear type A things you need to do will only get more easy when you're feeling filled up and when you're feeling lit up and inspired. So it can actually save you time to go wandering in your creativity. So I hope, like I said, I hope that this has given you something. And thank you for the time of watching it. On YouTube, soon I'm going to create a tapping video, EFT tapping video, to help give you permission to lean into your creativity a little bit more, kind of on this theme. So I will do that, but I am, again, open to any comments about like what your experience is with rushing and feeling like you're behind and not enough time and all of that. I'd love to hear that or anything coming up is something like you'd want to do. If only you had the time to do it, would be open to hearing that and holding space for you as well. And just kind of being on this journey with you as we're trying to figure out how to balance all the things, because I don't know if balance is possible, but I guess we'll try. All right. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and big hugs.